Just want to make this video for anybody that's interested in putting a subwoofer in their EV9. As we all know, the sound system is lackluster to say the least, especially bass. Um, so it's a 2024 EV9 GT line, but I'm sure you can do this for any model EV9 trim level. I didn't want a big box. And I tried first to find one that would fit inside the false trunk, if you want to call it that. It's just too small. I'd have to take out the glue bottle for the tire. I didn't want to do that. And I wanted everything as OEM as possible. In other words, I didn't want to drill any holes. It is a lease, and I just don't like drilling holes anyway, even if I owned it. So I came up with an idea. How could I use the rear tethers in these third row seats? It's too big to fit under any of the seats. I'm sure you could find something really small for the rear captain chairs. I abandoned that idea for running wire under carpet and all that nonsense, probably having to pull out the seat. I didn't want to go that far. So the rear tethers popped into my head. How could I connect an amp or a platform? So I bought some HDPE board. This is 1/2 inch, 16 by 12 wide, 16 long, 12 wide. And I thought a U-bolt. And that's what I did. So I made some measurements, drilled through. The U-bolt's kind of tricky because you can't get under there and hold it in place. So I just stuffed some bubble wrap to keep the U-bolt pushed up. Was able to mount it, tightened it down. It's solid, and then screwed the amplifier into the HDPE board, which is pretty strong stuff, some kind of plastic composite. I didn't have any split loom, so for now I just electrical taped it. Really easy back here because you're 12 volts right here. Very simple. Okay, obviously this comes from the ICCU. This has a fuse. It comes with a wire kit, this amp, or you can get one. The amp is also fused over here and over here. This doesn't have a auto on-off, this particular model, and I'll put all the links for everybody to buy exactly what I got. This is a $99 10-inch, I don't know, no name SSL, but it sounds pretty good. Probably increased the bass by 80%. And our ears are all different, but it works really well for me. And so what I did was come down here. So it doesn't have auto on off. I wanted to make that point. The car has to go to sleep. So I was using an auto on off. I bought another one, but it took a really long time for it to go off. This one sounded better. Very simple. 12 volts right here. Your ground's right here. No drilling. This comes out with a special pry tool, and you tap right into this 12 volt cigarette lighter, which goes on and off with the ignition. So there's no waiting for the car to go to sleep. So that your blue is your sense to turn on the amp. And then, of course, you have your 12 volt hot and your ground. It's all here. I ran this under. I could split loom. I've ordered some, but there's no crimping possibilities here because this is the soft rear seat here. This comes up. There's no pinching. And then you just kind of pull this off. Came through this hole here, right? Again, no pinching can happen here. Put this back on and up in there. So it's a really, really simple install. Now, the most difficult part was finding the high level subwoofer output. By the way, I still have this subwoofer connected. I thought maybe disconnecting it and running this would help the front speakers and not oversaturating the amp or drawing too much. It didn't make a difference to my ear, so I left it connected. I'm going to pause. I'm going to walk over to the rear door and show you how easy it is to tap in to this rear sub for the high level lows. And one quick note, again, I'll put all the links. This is 22 gauge soft silicone rubber wiring, really pliable. And this is your feeds that just kind of come over here and up into the amp for your high level inputs. And so we just took that around, and I only took this bolt off here. It's probably, you could see it here if you really looked in there, but I tucked most of it underneath this. So that bolt, just to kind of loosen up and get underneath, and then I'll pause and I'll show you from the other side. Okay, I have this all taped up. I'll try to upload a picture or two. From the factory, obviously your wiring harness, you just take the tape off it exposes all the wires. There's 4 wires that are your amp lines. They are purple red stripe positive, purple blue stripe negative for that channel. And then you have purple brown stripe, I believe is the negative, and then solid purple. For me, switching them around really didn't make a difference. The sub works, whether it's in phase or out of phase didn't matter to me because there's a phase switch on the amp. So here's the silicone wire. Take this screw out here. There is a screw under there, but you don't need, and you can just kind of hide it away and you will not see it. It's dark in the car, forgive me, but real simple. Taped it back up. This is just a simple pop off. Very easy to get this rear sill plate off. And that's it. I am using Power Amp. Power Amp does do a really good job of fine tuning on Android. I don't have an Apple phone, so I don't know how it works with Apple. But you could certainly use the gain function and tune your EQ and get much better headroom without really clipping the amp too bad. That's one of my biggest complaints, is it just doesn't go loud enough. It's, you know, it's just not loud enough. It's clean, but it's not loud enough. And then anything I found before doing the subwoofer install was anything over 30, 35 volume. The amp would just saturate and all the frequencies just seem to blend in. So using the Power Amp app, I think it's $5 for the Pro version. Spent it. Well money spent for me. I've fine-tuned the system for my ears. And I would say, in my opinion, for my ears, this makes the system probably 30 to 40% better for me. Still coming out of a Tahoe High Country with a Bose premium audio system, this just lacks in so many ways. But going to have the car for at least another year and a half, I had to do something. I'm going to pause. I'll raise these seats. I'm going to put in the false trunk so you see what the finished product looks like in the regular driver position. But still, you can get some luggage back here. Maybe put something on top of it, but it does allow a lot of room. This area is not affected with a big box. So I thought, again, this was the best method. All right, I'm going to pause. I'll put it in the rear trunk, I'll put it up, and I'll show you. Okay, so this is it. This is what it looks like. Still have all your room here to put groceries or wherever you got to get. You lay the seats down. It's fine. You just got a little bit of height differential on the left side for luggage if you're stuffing luggage back here. But both seats work independently. You can barely see the wires come in right here. Obviously with that, you're not going to hardly see any of the wires. This does weigh the seat a little bit. So, you know, if you pull with this side, obviously it spring loads and goes down. This side doesn't. You have to just help it a little because of the weight of the amp. But that's it. This particular version does have a sub control. I didn't want to run a wire all the way up the front and play with a dial. There is an issue where, you know, if you have the bass set really high and you turn the volume down, you do hear a little too much bass. But I fine-tuned the controls on this, your low level pass, your bass boost, subsonic filter, and your gain control. And then here's your 180 in and out of phase. I just keep it in phase. Again, how it interacts with that, it sounded better in phase. The trick I initially tried before I started this project was what I found on Reddit and YouTube with a person figuring out how to put the EV6 subwoofer out of phase, which made a big difference for EV6s. But don't forget, the EV6, I mean, I think personally, the reason why it made such a big difference is because the cabin is so small on the EV6 compared to this. This is just a massive cabin size differential, and I think that's really where this lacks. The sub is actually small. When I took this whole panel off doing this, it might be 8 inches. I don't even think it is. I think it's 6 inches. I think it's a dual voice coil, and it's just terrible. You hardly get any bass out of the vehicle. So this gives it a punch. Again, the headroom lacks. I know I'm repeating myself, but it was just one of the biggest drawbacks of this vehicle. I love this EV, but the biggest drawback for me was the sound system. Like, are you kidding me? $80,000, and this is the sound system you gave us, Kia. You know, interesting, we had a 2019, and I've mentioned this on posts, we had a 2019 Kia Sorento SXL with an Infinity, at least that's what it was branded, Infinity sound system. And it blew the doors off of this sound system. This is a 2024, so how many, 5 years later, Kia, if you ever listen to this, it is an insult to your customers. It's an embarrassment that you put this sound system in this vehicle. And it has nothing to do with saving energy because we have a Cadillac Optic right there. And that sound system toasts this. I mean, blows the doors off of this. So if anybody's out there saying, well, I think they did it for energy consumption on the 12 volt or the high volt battery, nonsense. And no one's going to be cranking tunes 24/7 at the highest volume anyway. This sound system in this vehicle is unbelievable. AKG, I don't know what they use, but it's the closest to my 2021 Tahoe High Country. So hats off to Cadillac, GM. But Kia, you got a lot of work to do. My advice is drop Meridian. They're horrible. It's a horrible product. All right. Any questions? Feel free to ask in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer as much as I can. One quick thing, if you do attempt this, make sure you put this up high. When I first mounted this plate, it was down lower. It did give it a little more stability. You could see more movement, but the problem was I couldn't get this rear seat in the full recline mode. It would hit down here. So you want to make some room, right, for your wire connections. So you want to mount this almost to the top. Again, 16 inches long, 12 inches wide, $18 piece on Amazon. I'll put all the links. I think I've said enough. All right. Happy changing your sound system. Thanks, Kia.